The final game before the split is upon us is Celtic take on St Mirren at Celtic Park and a 3 o'clock kick-off on Saturday. This is Tino with the Countdown to Kick-Off show, joined here by Brydo. Brydo, your initial thoughts ahead of this one?
Yeah, just good to be in control, I think, mate, to be honest. Be good to get back to Celtic Park with what we thought would be a kind of near full squad, but obviously that's not the case. But, you know, certainly a squad enough to beat a St Mirren team that we'll obviously touch on at some point, but perhaps getting to the top six is maybe that's their achievement done, and you know, maybe they've switched off the last few weeks. They're not doing as well as they were doing at other parts of the season, so we've got everything to play for, and we need to just I think we need to put the foot on the gas after I think a good performance on Sunday.
Yeah, just before we get to St Mirren, Brydo, and everything that will bring, what's your own reflections on the result at Ibrox? We've not spoke since then, so your general take on the performance, the results, anything about the major talking points?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, I think a draw is a good result. I think all we need to do is look at ourselves and think about the game that's coming up, whenever that will be, when it's all of us and none of them. And we fully expect our team to go and win, with that being a major part of the programme, if you like. So the fact that we've went there without our captain, and a lot of people saying, "Oh, I missed too many chances and we let them back in." You know, missing chances is part of football, and I'm more pleased at the fact we created those chances. Went 2-0 up, obviously. Half time, you're thinking, can you see it through? Ibrox is a tough place to go, and they're always going to throw everything at you, especially at this stage of the season. So I think probably more annoyed that at 3-2 we didn't cling on as opposed to the 2-0. I think in the 89th minute at 3-2, I think we could have been a bit more pragmatic, if you like, and a bit more cute about seeing the game out. I've been critical of us doing that before, you know, 1-0 up and Joe Hart sprinting for the ball and stuff like that, taking quick throw-ins. You know, just get through the game, you know, finish it up. But it's a cracking goal that they scored, and, you know, and was it Philip Clement's words, you'll not do that too many times in the season, like Kyogo, apparently, even though they'd done it already. So I'm pleased with the draw, and I'm pleased that we've got control. I think we spoke about that a few months ago, about being 2 points behind. I think we actually called it that we'd probably be round about 2 points behind if everything went the way we thought. We've came through some tough fixtures. But I think to have control after those fixtures and having the home ties versus their away ties, I think it should put us in the driving seat. And if we don't win it from now, we've nobody to blame but ourselves.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Listen, you've also got to give real credit, Brydo, to Rabbi Matondo, the only guy I've ever known to score a winner and a 3-each draw. So fair play to the man there. Is that your general take on the position just now, though, in terms of, so we've got 4 games out of 6 in our remaining fixtures. 4 home games out of 6. Rangers have got 5 away games out of their 7. And obviously the last derby of the season, league-wise at least, will be at Celtic Park. Is that everything that makes you confident that, you know, we're fully in the driving seat and fully in control of the destiny of the title?
Yeah, I think there's a combination of factors, to be fair, mate. I think the players coming back from injury, I think being at full strength whenever, you know, hopefully as soon as possible. I think that added to what's coming up fixture-wise and being at home. I know people will say our home record this year's not been that great, but, you know, there's mitigating factors for a lot of that. We were going through a right tough period when we lost a lot of those points. So for me going forward, I just think that we're hopefully peaking at the right time. And I think the pressure is really, really, really on the other side. And I think there's certainly a possibility both teams could still drop some points. You know, we're away to Kilmarnock, for example. It's at some stage, you know, Rangers go to Ross County on Sunday. They could be 4 points behind, and before you know it, you know, the pressure. These guys haven't really done it under pressure like that before. So there's a lot of factors that give me confidence. How we're playing, players coming back, and the fixtures that are coming up. And we have said it for a while. You know, we had the tough round of fixtures. Once you're past that, it's then your turn to perhaps have the easier, if you want to call it that, the easier running.
Yeah, and I think there's a very different pressure when you're out on front, and if Rangers were to win their their game in hand whenever that Dundee game gets played, then it would put them back in front. But it's a different pressure when you're the one out on top rather than being the chaser. So let's see how they can respond to that. You mentioned Celtic's home form has been quite sketchy, and I agree with you. It generally feels like that. But I did read a stat yesterday, Brydo, that the 2-0 defeat that Hearts inflicted on us this season, that was the only loss in 59 home league games that Celtic have had in recent times. So despite the fact that it does feel sketchy, we've dropped, a couple of points, Motherwell, St Johnstone and whatever, but it's still pretty strong, and you'd be hopeful that will be in our favour just across these next half dozen games or so. Brydo, before we get to looking at the lineup and the options that Brendan Rodgers has against St Mirren tomorrow, it's been yet another topsy-turvy week in the world of Scottish football in general. Lots going on just now. There's a Dundee fiasco, and you'd have to call it that. Tying himself in knots there, trying to work out a solution. There's ongoing VAR issues. Aberdeen have now come out formally and said VAR's not fit for purpose. Loads of things going on, and all the while, actually, you've got Neil Doncaster picking up best part of 400 grand a year for the pleasure. He came out at the top of the week, Brydo. There was a great headline: 1.4 million people tuned in for the Glasgow Derby on Sunday, the highest viewing figure ever by all accounts. Neil Doncaster comes out with the quotes, takes all the praise going. Fine, that's okay. But then when stuff hits the fan later in the week, he's nowhere to be seen. A lack of leadership, a lack of cohesion, a lack of forward thinking all across Scottish football.
Yeah, and it has been for far too long. I love Scottish football. I mean, for a long time, my mates would slag me off, wind me up, that I would prefer to watch the Scottish game over some of the kind of mediocre English Premier League games that are on the TV and stuff like that. But I like what's perceived the kind of the honesty around it, which I'm going to contradict myself in about 2 minutes probably. But that kind of just, there's a bit more blood and guts needed with that, and that's okay. But for me, to pick up that kind of level of money, but then have issue after issue, substandard. I mean, it goes right the way back to the COVID situation for me. So, okay, nobody knew the COVID situation was going to happen. But then when it did happen, and they had these votes and all the rest of it, which was touched on again because Dundee lost the email apparently, and Rangers are now anti-Dundee, but they're also anti-Dundee United because Dundee United voted for something else years before and basically picking a fight with anybody. But the Dundee thing, it then happened again. If I remember right, we had to have another break because we thought COVID was going to outbreak again, and they didn't have a resolution planned. They had the same problem because they didn't make it clear. The lack of transparency is across the board in Scottish football. Nobody knows what the SFA is accountable for. Nobody knows what the SPFL is actually doing. Yes, it's like a member group and they're in charge of that, but there's got to be some very transparent governance that we as fans all understand, because at the end of the day, we pay the clubs that are the members. You've got even when Hearts get relegated, that was a joke. You've got the ticket allocations. They've not stepped in until it's far too late to stop that, because as a product going live on the TV, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that they give Celtic and Rangers the allocations that they get. It's embarrassing that Rangers were allowed to just slash the allocations that they have done with the Celtic Rangers games, completely taking away a massive part of one of our most sellable assets as far as our football is concerned. The pitches, that's obviously been highlighted, and it's an embarrassment across. The TalkSport are at length talking about a game that's postponed. Now, that's not the big deal, really. It's about the lack of transparency around the whole saga. Where are the SPFL just to come out and say, these are the rules, this is what's happening, if X happens, Y is the solution? Like, it's so simple. But they've not done it because they keep on waiting. It's just rubbish. The VAR thing. Come on. Can we trust it anymore? We've all got examples. Jota at Motherwell is a good example. You've got the plastic pitches, like I mentioned there as well. We know it's terrible for the product, but we allow it to happen until whenever. Just let it fit out till somebody gets relegated and another team decides, what, we'll have a grass pitch. No, tell them that the top level of Scottish football needs grass pitches, and tell them they need to be a certain standard, not of Dens Park. It's just mad. The refereeing standards, we know about that. Nothing gets done. John Beaton is incompetent, whether Brendan Rodgers can say it or not. He's incompetent, And then 3 games later, he's in charge of the biggest game of the whole lot. Robertson's in charge of that game, and he's then in charge of our next game at Livingston away. So it's just, where is the common sense? Where is the leadership? Where is the transparency? And it's absolutely nowhere. And that's not even including things like ticket prices for the games, travelling to the games, and kick-off times that don't suit, are dictated to by a terrible TV deal. And then you've got other embarrassing things like the Cinch sponsorship and the Rangers thing and stuff like that. Who's right, who's wrong? I don't care. It's just always dramatic because it's not led properly. And you told me 5 minutes before we came on, he's getting £450,000 a year. Honestly, I'm surprised I'm still sitting on my seat. I thought I'd fell off because that is mad.
And into the bargain, he's also got a really lengthy notice period. It's something like a 2-year notice period if he quits. There's all sorts of stuff going on. One of the biggest things that annoys me, Brydo, is that there's absolutely that incompetence across Scottish football, but it's also mixed with a real dose of arrogance. So they're really poor at what they're doing, but they're somehow arrogant and borderline cocky about it. And even like so this week alone, the fiasco about the Dundee fixture for Rangers, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on, a lot of cloak and dagger stuff about who requested that it wasn't going to be in the first week and blah blah blah. And what you hear now, and just to finish on this general topic, but what you're hearing in the last day or so is that the game will now be played on Wednesday the 17th beyond the split. So there's a real question about sporting integrity there, but the game will be played on the 17th. And if it doesn't go ahead at Dens Park, there's contingency plans in place. Why were those contingency plans not in place for Wednesday there? It's the same scenario. So was there no forward thinking? We live in Scotland. We know it rains a lot. Could somebody somewhere not have put some thought into it? Brydo, we could be here all day talking about it. So I'll move as swiftly on, but it's something we'll revisit at different times on the weekly show and otherwise. Let's get to a brighter topic. Celtic back at Celtic Park. St Mirren, who've had a decent season. I think they're pretty pleased with how things are going under Stevie Robinson. But how do you think Brendan Rodgers and the players will be feeling, Brydo, after Sunday and as we now embark on this last half dozen games of the league campaign?
I think they'll be feeling good about themselves, and I think they'd be right to feel that way. I know and people are perfectly entitled to their opinion about they bottled it or they gave it away, they threw it away. Okay, you can maybe make that argument, but I think going to that game, everyone writing us off for a long period, writing Adam Ida off, writing Rodgers off, Kuhn, Kuhn didn't play well, but constantly writing players off, and they've came and they've answered a big question on Sunday. And we've came on here many times and said that there's been more questions than answers after games, after we played at Pittodrie, Tynecastle, you name it. I thought there was far more answers than there was, now questions after Sunday. I think we know the answer to a lot of our problems. I think we know the answer to what the questions are. What do you need to do to win the title? And I think our manager looks to be the more composed of the two, and our team look like the most composed, and they look like they're just getting stronger every game that they play. So I think they'll go into that and they'll have a good week training. I know there's a couple of injuries and things like that, but guys like Hattati getting another 60-70 minutes under his belt. McGregor's obviously played a bit on Sunday, maybe too early, but I think we're in going into a good spot, mate. I really do.
Yeah, I was listening to Brendan Rodgers' press conference there, and I'll touch on a few things in a moment. But the big thing for me about Brendan Rodgers is I described him earlier on in the week as a master of this Celtic Rangers fixture. 1 loss in 16 games. I think it's 12 wins, 3 draws, and 1 loss in 16. But out with that as a record in terms of points on the board, I also think he knows extremely well how to manage that game before, during, and after. He knows the noise that surrounds it. He knows what to say, what not to say. And I know there'll be folk listening to this, and I've had debates this week with folks who just aren't for Brendan Rodgers, and that's fine. That's football and that's opinions. But I think we're in a position now where we've got this huge Celtic Rangers game coming up, the last one of the league campaign, whenever that may be. And for me, there's no one I'd rather be in control of that. I think he's absolutely the man for that job. So let's see where that goes. In terms of the press conference today, he said he was really pleased with the focus and energy, were the 2 words that he used, about the squad this week and in training, because there's no doubt, and Callum McGregor leaned towards it. There will have been some disappointed boys on the bus away from Ibrox thinking what could have been, maybe Yang would have been kicking himself for his poor defending, and one or two other guys who maybe fell a wee bit short towards the end. But I think overall, once the dust settled, whenever that would be, they probably had Monday off, back to training on Tuesday. And I think the manager at that point will then have got them really focused, really energised, and really tuned into the fact that despite the fact that, 3 points were very nearly ours, a draw is a very credible result there, and a draw that puts us back in the driving seat, as you and I have agreed. You might have heard a couple of the injury updates, Brydo, the biggest one being Dyson Maeda, picked up some sort of hamstring issue. He's certainly out for this weekend, and it remains to be seen where he is further down the track. He's not a guy you want missing for the next Rangers game, but we'll need to see how that goes. So he's out. And Liam Scales, he's got an abductor muscle injury. He's going to miss out tomorrow as well. Doesn't seem to be a long-term one. But, the way it goes at any club, and certainly a club like Celtic, all that does is open the door to new guys coming in. So I don't know what I guess here. It might be Nawrocki comes in for Scales, and either Yang or Kuhn might be the supporting wingers. What's your general take before I get the rest of your lineup?
Yeah, I think Maeda's quite frustrating. We know that we watch every week, and I mean, he scores with a tackle, but he then can't find a corner from 15 yards or whatever. That's just, as we always say, he's just in his own world. He's in Dyson's world. But I think he will be a miss. I think we really missed him. I think we said that when he came back, one of the first couple of games back, that as much as he's got his limitations, he offers something that nobody else does, and it really gets us on the front foot. I think we can do without him a bit more now than we did back then, because we've got other players, dynamic players like Hatate and stuff coming back. The midfield looks more secure, and our wingers, Kuhn's obviously come in. He's better than he was. Yang is definitely better than he was at the start. So, we could maybe get by. I'm hoping that, as you said, I hope that he's available for whenever the next Celtic Rangers game is. But you know what? We can only just take one game at a time at the minute, as the manager always says. So it's important that we do that. And Scales came in for a lot of criticism, even on Sunday, even after a decent result. I think he has found it really tough the last few games, if I'm being honest. We've always been careful not to have a right good go at him, because I don't think for a single second he expected to be where he is. He's there through necessity. And I'd imagine Nawrocki's got a better chance of being a long-time centre-half for Celtic than perhaps Liam Scales is. I think Nawrocki's coming in. I don't like the defence changing, as you know. And I think we've done okay, and we've done far better without it changing. But again, through necessity, it gives somebody else a chance, just like it gave Scales his chance. So, I think we'll be okay if that's the only ones that Brendan Rodgers has suggested will miss out.
I was having a look earlier today at the lineup when we last played St Mirren at home. So it was on, try to remember from earlier, 3rd of November, something like that, maybe 1st of November, before the turn of the year anyway. We won 2-1, goals on the day from David Turnbull. He won't be anywhere near it. Who's also disappeared, he scored the winner that day. But the back four, I think, was Alistair Johnson, Nat Phillips, Liam Scales and Greg Taylor. Nat Phillips won't start tomorrow either. And obviously there has been so many changes, Brydo, across the campaign so far. But we know for sure it will be Joe Hart, and most likely will be Johnson and Taylor as your fullbacks. Carter Vickers seems to be back fit and firing, so he'll be in there as well. Do you think it's Nawrocki, or do you think it's Stephen Welsh, who I think more often than not, Brendan Rodgers has actually turned to him rather than the summer signings, whether it be Nawrocki or the less heard Lagerbielke?
I think you've got a point, because Rodgers does do that. He does have his trusted kind of deputies, if you like. I think most fans, certainly the ones I speak to, would prefer Nawrocki to be in there. But Rodgers has done this time and time again, and probably proven a lot of us wrong at times. He could put Welsh in there. I'm going to be honest, and it's because of my confidence at the minute. I don't think that it actually really matters. I really don't actually think it matters that much. I think you could put either in there, and I don't think that that's going to be as big an issue. And it's not to say that the players at St Mirren have up the park aren't good enough. They have a couple of players that they definitely are. I just think that when Celtic got the bit between their teeth at Celtic Park, all the fans were all pulling the same direction. I just think it's too big. It's too big for St Mirren to compete with. So yeah, he'll obviously pick one of them. I think it should be Nawrocki, but because he's not had as much of a chance, perhaps, as Welsh has had over the years. He's shown us that he can't really do it, if I'm being honest. So why not put Nawrocki in? But Rodgers might trust Welsh a bit more, and therefore that's why he might go with that. So, yeah, I don't think, in my opinion, it'll matter a great deal, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I think at home, what we've stressed throughout this season is that as a centre half for Celtic at home to most teams out with Rangers, maybe Hearts, you're going to get so much of the ball, and it's actually more about what you do in possession than defending. So it really comes down to whether Brendan Rodgers thinks that Mike Nawrocki is the guy to start attacks, or if it's Stephen Welsh. A few comments coming in. We've got Smell the Glove, who's often here. He said if Brendan plays Welsh instead of Nawrocki tomorrow, then the big pole might be off in the summer. He's not a big fan of Stephen Welsh. Various other comments coming in, so please keep them coming in, guys, as we get through the chat, and we'll see what your own thoughts are. There's also a comment further up, Brydo from DFS, saying get yourself into the Forge Asda for a 70 pence hot cooked bit of barbecue chicken. Seems to have a bit of value on offer there, but that's maybe a completely separate conversation. Brydo, moving into the midfield, you've got a situation here with Callum McGregor where we took a gamble last week, and I think it was a gamble that didn't quite pay off. He's clearly not quite ready. Brendan Rodgers has said that he did train well this week, but reading between the lines, I don't think he's anywhere near a start at this moment in time. So what do you think about McGregor's situation in general, and what do you think the midfield three will look like?
I think all the games are so important, obviously. I think that Callum McGregor is one of the most important players that we have. But I think if it's a risk to play him from the start, then you don't. I think we'll have harder challenges than we'll have on Saturday to come. So I think it's vital that we protect him if we can. And I think that if the players that are available in the job that they've done, I'm not a massive fan of Iwata. I know you boys are a bit more. I'm just not a massive fan of him. I think he's okay. And he has done okay in parts of games. There's just a lot of the time I don't think he does the things that we need as a team, especially in possession. Out of possession, he's okay. But demanding the ball, controlling a game, I don't think he's got it in his locker. However, similar to the reason why I'm saying Welsh and Nawrocki is probably because Carter Vickers is beside them. But in the middle of the park, you've got Hatate and O'Reilly. And really all they need to do is just keep feeding them the ball. And they'll hopefully do enough damage that takes the pressure off us and allows the players to enjoy the game a bit more, as opposed to the pressure of being nothing each with 10 minutes to go type thing. McGregor is vital to us, and especially in the biggest of games. And I think that that these big games, as much as they all count, of course, I think there's just bigger and harder games still to come. So we need him ready.
Yeah, I don't think there's any risks that will be taken with him. So I think on that basis, you're looking at the same starting three, aren't you? It's Iwata. So I'm a big fan of Iwata. I do think he was similar to against Hearts at Tynecastle, a wee bit lackadaisical at times on the ball at Ibrox, but I do think he's a decent option there, and he'll be getting better with the experiences of these tough fixtures that he's played in. I think it'll be Iwata, O'Reilly and Hatate. What about Paulo Bernardo, though? There's a guy there who comes in for real credit for the impact he had off the bench, the most notable being the assist for Adamida. He came on, I think it was around about 82 minutes in, and there's a huge bit of pressure at that point. Rangers then get the equaliser, they're in the ascendancy, and you're wondering if Celtic can maybe hold on for the 2-each draw. But Bernardo's had other ideas, and he's driven forward via the left-hand side and delivered a really good ball into Adamida, who himself has done brilliantly for the finish. So he'll obviously be feeling good about that. That's just natural. Does he want a case for a start somewhere, or is he best coming off the bench at this moment in time?
I think it's the bench for him. But I'll state what I've said a few times. Hold on, so I need to pay the bill here. Hold on. That's me waving to the angels and stuff up at the bill. I think he is a very good player. I think he's a level of quality that I don't know what the price tag. There's a lot of speculation about that all the time, and people will say, yeah, we'll sign him if the price is this, and we'll sign him if the price is that, and don't if it's that. I think he's a player that is the right age. I love his temperament. I love the fact. I always go back to, I think it was Pataudry maybe, we missed a chance, and you could see it. It really affected him that we didn't take the chance and do the job. For a guy on loan who don't always see that, I think he's a guy who's really out to try and carve out his own career, and I think he loves. He certainly comes across the game, absolutely loves it here, and he's shown quality in big moments. The Celtic Rangers game at Celtic Park was possibly his biggest one. I think he's done a job in European games. I think he's got a lot of energy. People think because he's like Portuguese, he might know, be like some of the Scottish lads and dig in. He digs in, and there's a comment from John, but he is technically excellent as well. And that's him not playing every week, We've seen some, I think it was St Mirren away, in fact, that him and O'Reilly, absolutely, it was like a well-oiled machine, the pair of them. So, I just think Hatate needs to keep getting the games. He is, I think, probably our best player. And therefore, that kind of stops Bernardo. But he is duly allowed, 25, 30 minutes every game, I think. I don't think he's a guy that should be getting 10 minutes here or there. I think he is more than deserving of that. And if he keeps doing what he done on Sunday, if one of the other players look tired or maybe are just a bit off it or maybe he's carrying a wee knock, I don't think any Celtic fans should be scared if he did start. But I think it'll be Hatate and O'Reilly. But there's a lot of good cases can be made for him, for sure.
Definitely, and I agree with you. I think it's the three of Iwata, Hatate and O'Reilly, but there's several folks in the comments coming in. John Brown, who said Bernardo's technically excellent. Various other folk here, AR, thinking that Bernardo should get a start as well. So he's got lots of backing from the Celtic supporters. I think we can all see he's a talented guy, and he's still young, 21, maybe 22, but plenty of time for development. And I think the hope is that he'll be a Celtic player come next season. Looking at the front three, Brydo, so obviously we've got a situation where Daizen Maeda won't play, so there is an opportunity there for someone. We had Nicholas Kuhn, who's now come onto a game after a slow start since his January move, but he's now showing a bit of confidence on the right-hand side. For me, it would definitely still be Kyogo through the middle, but there's a genuine case for Adam Maeda given what he done at Ibrox and what he continues to do in a Celtic shirt. So, two questions for you. Who's your number 9 tomorrow, and who's the other winger if Nicholas Kuhn is on the right?
I think, for me, Kyogo starts. I think Kyogo done, he didn't get his goal, and he missed the header and whatever else, but that is football. He's always been a player that's missed chances in games and still managed to score 2 or 3. I thought he'd done a really good job, and I thought I'd done a cracking job when he came on as well. It was perfect timing, good management as well. I'd done enough to make goals and get subbed off. That doesn't happen that often. So, again, probably similar to the Bernardo situation in midfield. We've got a guy on loan who's trying to carve out his career. He's been apparently a Norwich reject, which I remember us discussing that and getting caned for it from some people to say that he was. When I didn't think he was. Offers a lot of stuff that Kyogo doesn't. But for me, it's let's not make too many changes. We're doing well. We're starting to kind of hopefully pour and bring me a bit of confidence. We don't want Kyogo kind of dipping again. So for me, it's Kyogo. For me, it's also Kuhn, but I'd play Kuhn on the left and I'd have Yang on the right. And I'm back to my same old argument of playing left-footed wingers on the left and right-footed wingers on the right against certain teams. St Mirren might defend deep. They might have nothing to lose. They've nothing to lose. They're not playing for a great deal. They are where they're going to probably finish. So they might just decide and they might just turn around and go and enjoy it. Lads go and play and attack and give us some real problems. It could be to their detriment. It could be that they get a win at Celtic Park for the first time in however many years. So, but I definitely would be playing Kuhn on the left and Yang on the right with Kyogo in the middle.
Exactly what Maestro 95 says in the comments. Switch Kuhn over and start Yang, and I'd be all for that. I think we had a situation as we headed towards Ibrox about potentially, starting them both and debating whether Maeda was the right guy. Maeda is always the right guy. Ibrox is the correct answer there. But you had a situation where Yang was actually in very good form until the sending off at Tynecastle, and it's been a wee bit stop-start as he's tried to get back in from there. He was at fault. There's no getting away from it. Great strike from Rabbi Matondo, but Yang's made it far too easy for him. He'll have learned from that. He'll have been pulled aside. He'll have done the analysis earlier this week. He won't do it again in a hurry. And someone in the comments said it probably makes sense to get him back in kind of early, not to let him dwell on his mistake, not to let him fester on the bench and worry about what's next. I think there is a good opportunity to start both. And actually, effective as Daizen Maeda is, Ibrox in various games like that, he's less effective when you come up against a relatively low block at Celtic Park when the onus is on, trickery in the wings and getting to the byline and getting crosses in. So actually, it's not by design. We don't have Daizen Maeda through injury, but I'm okay with, as you say, let's go Kuhn on the left, Yang on the right, and let's see if we can get in behind them and make things happen. In terms of press conference stuff, it was Adam Ida who was speaking from a player's point of view today. Really mature young guy, Brydo. I think he's 22, 24 caps for Ireland, 3 goals. He's played a lot of football in his young career so far, and he's saying this is the best he's felt as a footballer. It's the most confident he's felt, and he's put a lot of that down to the manager. Says the manager's got real belief in him. He told them from the outset, there's certain things in your game that we want you to work on, and Ida himself feels that he's now improving there. And I think that's where Brendan Rodgers comes into his own. People won't like at times how he speaks, what he says, some of the rhetoric that comes from Brendan Rodgers. But what he is at its core is a really talented coach. He makes players better in its simplest sense. And I think Celtic are getting the benefit of that. You can see the improvements in guys like Ida, Nicholas Kuhn, Yang, and various others. So Adam Ida, I think he's a great option. We'll have the chat another time about whether he stays on at Celtic as well. But I think he's a great option on the bench. And listen, if he starts tomorrow, I'm absolutely okay with it because I think he can play a part. But I think there's also a chance that he might, come on 60-odd minutes and we'll see where it goes. We've not really got time to dwell on it just now, Brydo, but we also can't underestimate how huge it is to have Reo Hatate back in the engine room. He gets 65 minutes against Livingston, spot on. 65 minutes at Ibrox as well, showed, real glimpses of his quality. And I think it's potentially the biggest boost to have him back for the run-in. So hopefully he's back fit and firing as well against St Mirren. Brydo, what about St Mirren then? So I'll get my stats up while we're chatting, but I think they're 4th in the table behind Hearts. It's been a good old season. They're guaranteed top 6. I asked you how Celtic would be feeling coming into this one. How does St Mirren feel?
Well, I had a quick look at some of the results of the last kind of 10 games. I don't think they've won the last 3. Is that right?
I'll tell you in a second.
They've won the last 3. And I think that might be kind of indicative of the fact that they've already got to the top 6. That was already done. Okay, they weren't easy games that they had, to be fair. I don't proclaim to know if they've had any injuries. I had a quick look. I like to see if like Cohen's playing. He hadn't started until the last game just there. I think he'd missed 2 or 3. He was on the bench when there was a lot of talk about how good he was for them. So I don't know the ins and outs of that, if that's a performance thing or perhaps that they want to maybe try some of their own players that maybe they'll to see what they'll do as opposed to a lone player. I don't know. There could be a lot of ins and outs, but I think he is a good manager. He was good with Motherwell. I think he got we played them in 2 cup finals in the bounce, I think, if I remember right. He sets his team out. They're not kick and rush teams or anything like that. I think he talks a good game. I think he comes across reasonably well, and I think he will have Rangers. He'll have St Mirren try to be as professional as they can. It's just sometimes difficult if Celtic come out the traps and get a couple of early goals or something. It can be very then difficult to get themselves up for it because ultimately, their minds could be on the beach.
So my mistake, they're actually sitting in 5th position rather than 4th at this moment in time. It's Kilmarnock who have jumped ahead of them, actually by a few points. So Kelly are 4th on 48 and St Mirren are 5th on 43, same games played. So they're probably going to finish around about 5th. I think it's the start here on the radio. It's only the second time in 30 odd years where they've managed top 6 finishes back to back, something like that. So they're in a pretty decent position. If the season ends tomorrow, St Mirren fans are pretty happy. I see online that they're delighted with Stevie Robinson and the job that he's doing. Their big fear actually is that he might be pulled away to a different job. But in terms of the form guide, you're absolutely right, Brydo. So they've lost 2 of their last 3 They get beat 2-1 at Hearts last week. They drew 1 each at Motherwell the week before. And then they got a doing. They lost 5-2 to Kilmarnock after being 2-0 up, if you remember catching highlights of that. So I wonder if, to an extent, and it's hard psychologically not to, but to an extent, some of their players maybe feel that the hard work's done for the season. But that in itself could be a danger for Celtic, because if they come here in relaxed mode, nothing to lose mode, that can be as dangerous as anything else at different times.
Yeah, it can, because if we've all seen it before, even mid-game, if you get a couple of goals up, I just said that they're Celtic getting 2 goals up or whatever, you play with a freedom and you can enjoy the game. The top players play that way under the biggest of pressures. Other players maybe can't do that, but in a kind of less stressful environment, they can go and express themselves and try things perhaps that they wouldn't try other times. So, it could lead to problems for us, because we might get spooked by how they play. But let's be honest, if they come out and play that kind of, free-for-all style and go and enjoy it, then it should leave enough space for our quality players to destroy them in our final third. It should. If we find any sticky points, and out wide could be, Kuhn could be having, let's say he starts with Kuhn and Yang. Both of them have had moments in the season where we've looked as if they shouldn't even be involved in the squad, let alone starting. And we've even seen it with Maida. There's a lot of shout for him to be dropped sometimes. So I think we're not in that position where we've got like an Abada who's firing on all cylinders and a Jota. We've not got that. But these guys are there. So we could find ourselves in a sticky situation, and that St Mirren, with nothing to lose, could pounce on that. We need to make sure that we write that story ourselves and ensure that doesn't happen. And that means being on it right for the first whistle, and essentially beat them into submission early doors, and then go and express ourselves and enjoy it, and hopefully get a few goals, because goal difference, as we know, can become a factor.
Yeah, it could be really important. You mentioned writing your own story, Brydo, and there's actually someone in the comments whose name or their username is Write Your Own Story, which I like. It's obviously a nod to Brendan Rodgers and what he said not too long ago. But Brydo, just generally speaking, and I say this with every respect to St Mirren, that if you want to go and win the title, you absolutely have to be beaten sides like St Mirren. And if you don't, then maybe it's not for you. Maybe you've not done enough and showed enough quality. So I think Celtic go there, and there's always that fine line, isn't there, between confidence, slipping into arrogance. I don't think Brendan Rodgers allows his players to be arrogant, but what I think he does have, and he's reinforced it with his pre-match today, or his press conference today, is he's got a squad feeling good about themselves. I think they take great credit from what they done at Ibrox on Sunday, and I think they now go into this one. And actually, from a playing point of view, sometimes you'll have mishaps throughout the season, you'll have freak results and different things, but now that the situation right now allows for a laser focus. Take the Scottish Cup aside for a moment. 6 games, win the 6, do your job, and it's all there for you. And I think there's a real focus amongst the squad to just go and do what they need to do over these next half dozen games. So on that, Brydo, based on all we've spoken about, all we've witnessed across the season so far, what do you think we're going to see in terms of a scoreline tomorrow?
Honestly, I'm confident. I'm saying 5-0 to Celtic.
5-0?
Yeah. I just think that's a stage of the season where we are getting going, and guys like Hatati's always playing with a smile on his face and stuff as well, and he's enjoying it. And see, when players at that level are enjoying their game, O'Reilly is enjoying his football. I just think these are the guys that are key. You've got 2 strikers in Kyogo and Ida who are both fighting each other to score the goals. Okay, out wide, Kuhn has been playing well, so, and we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And Yang was playing well before he got his suspension. So I think if those guys find that, and that's a kind of 5 or 6 players, let's say there's 5 players, they're the key for me to unlock whatever defence St Mirren put up tomorrow. So yeah, I'm going a couple of early goals, and St Mirren being a team that haven't got anything anywhere near the level of what we're playing for. And that, I think, with the home crowd feeling the way we should be feeling, I think that sets us off to go 4 points ahead of Rangers after the game tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think motivation at any level of football is huge. And the bottom line is, St Mirren have got next to nothing to play for. There's a very, very slim chance of 4th. I don't know if they get any Europe for 5th. Don't know. But the motivator for those players versus the motivator for Celtic's players It doesn't even compare. I think it could be a healthy scoreline tomorrow, but you touched on it just there, Brydo. How important do you think it is to get that early goal? Because we know ourselves at times at Celtic Park this season where it's going in nothing each or maybe one each at the break. A wee bit of tension can set in. I do think it'll be a really frenzied atmosphere tomorrow. I think it's the first time back at Celtic Park in a number of weeks. I think the fans, as we've seen on Saturday, the send-off the players got before heading across to Ibrox, the fans are fully behind this side. And I've touched on it a couple of times. People like or don't like Brendan Rodgers, which is fine. I don't think anybody, though, generally speaking, amongst the fan base, isn't fully behind the team and the target that we've got between now and the end of the season. So getting an early goal can just relax the crowd, can relax the players, and could play a huge part in the final result.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it in a lot of these games. I know you mentioned earlier that Hearts is the only defeat. It's the draws that kill us. You know, it's the draws that genuinely and draws from positions as reasonable strength, and then we get a bit tetchy. As fans, we can get nervous. That transcends onto the park, or vice versa. You know, the players get nervous and the fans get nervous. I think it's exactly what you just said there. I mean, I think everybody's got to be aligned and going and pulling in the same direction. There's 6 games plus the cup games to go and win 2 trophies, but mainly this one. And to do that, everybody needs to play their part, and that involves that as us sitting in the stand. You know, if it is nothing each with 10, 15 minutes to go, you know, we've got to be that 12th man, and not just for the game when Rangers turn up and there's no Rangers fans. For the next 6 games, home and away, every single person's got to be on it, and it's got to be a full commitment from everybody involved. And I think even just seeing how the players were on the bench on Sunday, and how the manager, and even before he left, and like you said, the fans, and the fact my brother and my wee nephew were there and taking videos, and it's brilliant, you know. That, and to me, we need more of that, and the more of that we get, the better results we'll get. I think I've no doubt of that, but it's got to come from the players to feed that to the fans, because we're not going to get anything regarding officials or anything like that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's the players, and Brendan Rodgers has said this previously this season, that it's the players that give the energy to the fans, you know, to give them something to get excited about. But I also think, and we covered this in the weekly show on Monday, I also think you've got the fans are unified behind the team, but also within the team. You've seen how wildly they celebrated Adam Ida's goal, and you've got guys like Stephen Welsh on the bench, not playing a part physically on Sunday, but as delighted as anybody. Gavin Strachan losing his mind at a couple of the goals. I think there's a real unified group behind the scenes there as well, Brydo, which is so important. So listen, I'd love to see your 5-0 come to fruition. James will be delighted. He loves the big score lines, but let's see how that goes. I'm going to go a wee bit more tempered. I'm going to say 3-0, but I do think it's all there for Celtic to go and put in a comfortable result, and one that would put us 4 ahead and put real pressure on Rangers going up to Dingwall, which can be tricky at the best of times. But Brydo, as we start to wrap this one up, your own final thoughts for the day?
I think my final thoughts are that it's the next 3 points are the biggest 3 points, and that's why we need to go all guns blazing, start off, real energy, blow them away, get a really good result, 4 points clear, celebrate a win with the fans after the game, not celebrating draws. And I think that actually speaks volumes as well. The reaction after the game on Sunday was one team at home with all of their fans celebrating as if they'd won the game. All accounts, they won the Moral Cup. But, you know, I know players were a wee bit dejected. That kind of knee-jerk, a wee bit dejected. But in the cold light of day, anybody that knows football looking at that knows that Celtic got the better of the 2 teams in regards to the result and performance. And I think Celtic are the team that looks the strongest of the 2. But we need to show that. And to show that, we start tomorrow and go for a big home win, a Dundee type win that we got earlier in the season, and just blow them away. And the crowd react the same way that we did at that game as well at half time. That was something that'll last with me for a wee while, because it's that moment and those moments that we remember as fans, and I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, I think so, Brydo, and I think it's another opportunity for another really special day at Celtic Park tomorrow. I mean, yeah, lap of honour for a draw, delusional stuff, and if that tells you about the level and where they're at and where their heads are at in terms of this title race, then I'm okay with it. I think, as Brendan Rodgers continues to stress, we can only manage what we can manage in-house, And I think we're going to see another impressive Celtic performance tomorrow. Brydo, thanks for joining us here today. Thanks to everyone who's joined us in the live, and thanks to everyone who continues to listen to the podcast. I'll be back tomorrow at 6:30, so I'll be at the game as well, Paddy. But we're both jumping back online at 6:30 to do the post-match after Celtic v St Mirren. So in the meantime, hopefully the boys get a big win, and we'll see you all then.